What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the vlog. For those that are new here, my name is Eric and this is my 2022 BMW M340i xDrive. In today's video, we're going to be doing some interior modifications and converting the interior trim from wood grain to carbon fiber, as well as installing carbon fiber steering wheel trim from the G80 M3 that's fit for the M340i. If you guys are interested in any of the parts you've seen in previous videos or this carbon fiber kit in today's video, make sure you check out the links in the description. Let's go ahead and jump into the install. Alright guys, let's take a look at the parts that we're going to be installing on the interior of the M340i. So over here we have one of my favorite mods. This is a carbon trim conversion for the steering wheel. It gives it this cutout just like the G80 and G82 M3 and M4, but it's in the same shape as the G20 wheel, which is just a little bit different than the M wheels, but it is in the same carbon with the M badge down here. So we're gonna be swapping this in today. This is a full replacement piece, which is a little bit more expensive than an overlay. I'll show you guys what I'm talking about with an overlay. One of the other things we're gonna be doing is the center console carbon fiber. This is a little bit different than that other piece. This does not replace the entire panel. This actually just goes over it with some 3M tape. So we'll see how these turn out, how these look. They're a lot less expensive. I thought it would match the steering wheel, and we'll see how that looks. Lastly, we have here one thing that I'm really excited for. This is a center console ambient lighting conversion. So basically this replaces the trim panel on the side of the center console, and it adds this section right here that is going to match the ambient lighting inside of the car. So it adds few more strips of ambient lighting. I think it'll look really good. You guys will see what I'm talking about once we get these inside the car. We also have more overlay pieces for the dash. So this is gonna go over the dashboard. And then this right here is a small mod, but I'm super excited for this mod. This is a key holder, sauce holder, small item holder that goes in the center console. This is gonna replace section that isn't used in the center console and just gives you a little bit more utility. Let's go ahead and jump inside and start taking stuff apart. All right guys, the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna open up the center console so we can pop out this trim piece right here. We're gonna remove the trim around here, remove the center console, and then we'll be able to get these pieces out right here. So step by step, starting back here, then removing this, and then those pieces right there. So we're able to get that whole center section out. We are going to be putting the overlay over this. Next thing we're going to do is take a couple of Torx bits and remove this center console, and then we can get these out. All right, now that we have those bolts out, this whole shifter assembly just lifts up. We can go ahead and disconnect these down here. If you guys don't have a way to clear codes, this is a good time to disconnect your battery, because you may get some codes from disconnecting the shifter assembly with the battery still connected. I'll just go ahead and clear those with my scanner after this. So now that we have those two plugs disconnected from the bottom, this whole shifter assembly can come out. We'll go ahead and take this apart in a little bit so we can install that section right here. All right guys, now that we have the shifter out, we can go ahead and get these trim pieces out. These just pop up, so we can pop all of these tabs right here, pop these trim pieces up, and then we'll pull them backwards to get them out like that. The only thing we're gonna need off these is these metal clips, and we'll transfer those over to the other pieces. All right guys, so we have the old pieces that we've removed right here and the new ones right here. You can see that they're identical. The only thing that we're gonna have to do is swap out these metal clips right here and put them onto this one. So we'll go ahead and swap those over, and then we'll move back in the car and get these installed. Alright guys, we're going to be installing this harness that adapts to the center console trims for the ambient lighting. This right here is basically just a jumper harness that taps into the factory ambient lighting up underneath the passenger side right here. So we're just going to be taking this panel down and connecting this harness in. We're going to run this wire up and then into the center console so that these can connect when we put the new trims in. So now that we have this panel down, we're just going to disconnect this right here. We're going to plug this harness adapter in. And we're going to run this, like I said, up this side trim. We're just going to try and get it wedged up in here and then into the center console. Now that that's ran, we can go ahead and tuck this back up in here and reconnect those thumb screws. Alright guys, so we're back in the car with both new trims and we have the wiring harness installed. What we're going to need to do now is connect this wiring harness to the end of both of these, and then we're going to use some electrical tape to keep this connection tight. Alright, so now that the electrical tape is holding those connections in, we can go ahead and slide these back into the original slots. Trying to keep that wiring harness in here so that it stays tucked and stays hidden. And then basically we're just going to be shoving these down back into those factory connections. Alright guys, now that those are installed, let's go ahead and hop back out of the car and we're going to work on the center console and get that little tray installed. Alright guys, so now we're going to install this little tray right here into the center console, or into the shifter. So now that the shifter's off, basically there's these 4 tabs that you can kind of see. One right there, there's one right here, and one right here. So we're going to be popping those tabs off. I'm just going to use a little pry tool right here, and basically we're just going to be prying those back while pushing down. Alright guys, so we just released all those tabs and popped this out. You can see what's being held on is these little clips. You're basically just going to want to pry off the little tab and push this part down. Now that this is out, we can go ahead and swap this in just like that. We're just going to push this down in, snap it into the tabs. There we go. Let's go ahead and throw this back in the car. Alright guys, so we're going to go ahead and throw this back in here. We're going to make sure we reconnect these 2 connectors that go into the bottom of the shifter. First one is right there, and the second one goes right here. Okay, so now that those 2 connectors are in, we're going to go ahead and throw this back in here, trying to make sure that we're not squishing any of the wires for the ambient lighting. And then we're going to go ahead and throw the 4 Torx bolts back into the shifter. Alright guys, now that we got the shifter secured with everything plugged in, we can go ahead and throw this trim back in. We're going to do this and then go ahead and put the carbon fiber over the top. We could do it out of the car, but I don't think it really makes that big of a difference. We're going to go ahead and take this rear trim panel in the center console, make sure we get this slid back on. Alright guys, so now that we have the ambient lighting strips in, we're going to be installing the overlays for the carbon fiber center console trim as well as the dash. So what we're going to do is use one of these prep wipes. We're going to wipe it down, peel all the stick. We're going to try and get this as centered as possible, and we'll see what it looks like when it's all done. Alright guys, so it's a new day. We're back working on the car. We're going to be finishing up doing the interior. We got the carbon steering wheel to do. We need to release the clips for the airbag. You actually have to create a hole in the bottom of your steering wheel if you haven't done this before. Poke a little tool in here, and you're going to release the airbag. So I'm going to try and get this Torx bit inside of there and release it right now. Alright, so we got one side released. Now we're going to do it to the other side. Alright guys, once the airbag is out, in order to get this trim off, we actually have to take both paddle shifters off. What we're going to do is we're going to pull these little blue connectors up out of their holders, and that exposes one T20 Torx bolt that takes off the paddle shifter. Same for the other side. Once we do that, then we can release the bolts that hold on the top of the trim, as well as the trim bolts that are back here behind the paddle shifters, and that's why we have to take those off. So now that we got the paddle shifters out, we can get access to the bolts that are back behind here, and those just hold the trim on from behind the steering wheel. And then now we're going to take off these top two bolts just up here in the corners of the trim. All right, now that those are off and the back bolts are off, you can go ahead and pop the trim clips, top and bottom. And then it looks like there's one electrical connector on this side that you're gonna have to remove as well. Okay. Alright guys, so we have both trim pieces here. This one we just pulled out of the car and the new carbon one. If we flip these over, you can see all of the wiring and everything that holds these in. These actually use a very small Torx bit, and we'll be removing each of these modules and the wiring harness and swapping it over to this one. Now that we have these pulled off, we're going to swap them over here, and we're going to try and make sure that we run the wiring the exact same way as it was on the other side. All right, now the last thing on this wheel is actually the heated button. So if you don't have a heated steering wheel, you won't have this. Just two bolts. We're gonna take this off and swap it over to the new one. All right, so now that we got everything swapped over, we can go ahead and put this back in the car. All right guys, so now that we got this all swapped over, we can go ahead and throw it back in the car. We just got to reconnect the heating and the media controls right here. So we get that in, we're gonna get it lined up as best we can and try and get all of these clips to clip back in. So now that we've done that, we can go ahead and put the bolts back into the rear side underneath the paddle shifters, as well as these top two, and then we'll reconnect the paddles. All right, so now that we got those back ones in, we're gonna go ahead and put in these top two trim bolts. Okay, so now that we got the trim secured and everything plugged in, we're gonna connect the paddle shifters to the steering wheel. And now that we got those bolts screwed in, we're gonna go ahead and just put the connectors back into their holders on each side. And then once we've done that, we can go ahead and take our airbag. We're gonna plug the airbag back in. Take the airbag, center it, push firmly. Just like that, we have our new carbon fiber trim on the steering wheel installed, as well as these paddle shifters that we installed previously. And I think it really helps tie in all the carbon fiber. All right guys, just like that, the install is done. We have the carbon fiber trim installed on the interior. We're gonna go out and get some shots up in the canyon, let you guys see it in the daytime. Let me know what you guys think. Again, if you're interested in any of the parts in today's video, make sure you click the link in the description and go buy some of the carbon fiber trim kits that I'm gonna be selling on tacticmotorsports.com.
Extravulous.
Roofer got that heat, bitch. They ain't really about it. Yeah, it's fizz hoe. I'm wasted, smoking, cold dancing, I'm lounging, sipping this liquor straight, I'm faded, rolling, surrounded by dough, I'm living, I'm feeling wasted, smoking, cold dancing, I'm lounging, sipping this liquor straight, I'm faded, rolling, surrounded by dough, I'm living, I'm feeling great, on no cup, smoking till my eyes shut, I don't give a fuck, I pour ice on my gut, I'm a post, fuck, just bought another new Porsche, walk in and buy the whole store, bitch, y'all need to catch up, she boys for us, most cut me off and trust the bus, shouldn't have from all the chicks we fucked, the dick, there's so much, she grabbed junk, honey, dick ass, fuck, we at the club, I don't ran and pull, when they hate you up, I don't worry about it, cause I know that they ain't really about it, they say they want it, but I know that they faking, say they got bands, well, bitch, I really doubt it, when they hating, well, I don't worry about it, cause I know that they ain't really about it, they say they ballin', but I know that they faking, say they got bands, well, bitch, I really doubt it, I'm wasted, smoking, cold dancing, I'm lounging, sipping this liquor straight, I'm faded, rolling, surrounded by dough, I'm living, I'm feeling wasted, smoking, cold dancing, I'm lounging, sipping this liquor straight, I'm faded, rolling, surrounded by dough, I'm living, I'm feeling great. With my headphones on, bitch, I'm hype in the air, long gone, that's for sure. After the show, I pick her out and pipe her up.
Thank you guys so much for checking out today's video. If you liked it, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to check out some more content, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.
Sip a little gin and tonic, if the boy want it, he got it, damn, now my view is dropping, so apparent he on his shit, I'm used to being the topic, when they hating, well, I don't worry about it, cause I know that they ain't really about it, they say they ballin', but